Two artists that have really influenced me a lot are Walter Battis and Norman Catherine. Especially Walter Battis with his, I really love that idea of Fook Island where he just created his own little universe. And yeah, that's something that I'm sort of, I wouldn't say trying to do, it's just something that's sort of happening slowly but surely. And these little creature feature animals are sort of like part of that, where I'm taking bits and pieces, a little bit of mythology, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and creating my own little world. When we were living in Australia, I became very interested in Aboriginal art, and I learned bits and pieces about, what is it about and all that. One of the things that I was fascinated by, that these sort of like these X-ray paintings where you'd see inside of an animal, inside an animal. And from what I sort of could gather from that is that the elders were making these paintings to teach the children and that how to actually dissect fish and birds, wombats, whatever it was. And I became fascinated with that idea of sort of, I suppose, like with humanity, with things inside, we outside our bodies, and then we have a physical body, and then we have our sort of spiritual and inside and everything. And then also just, once again creating this whole little fantasy world. I've taken a bit of Xhosa mythology and often use the birds. And I often see the birds as sort of like the Umpundula bird, as I mentioned before, which is, sort of like an omen where it flies, and it's sort of like when storms come and shooting lightning bolts down, and eggs are laid where the lightning bolts hit, and this. Then I also start thinking, well, what about beadwork, Xhosa beadwork. If you think about it, it's actually sort of a 3D representation of dots. So, and I've also noticed Xhosa people use dots sometimes on their faces, ceremonial. So yeah, it's really my interpretation of things, and it's not a strictly following all the rules and everything, but it's my interpretation. Last year, 2020, when we went into lockdown, the first level 5 lockdown, obviously like everybody else, we were locked up on our small holding and that, and it's sort of like such a shock to suddenly find ourselves in a situation like this that. I think everybody was obviously, especially as an artist, you become inspired by not inspired, just like sort of horrified by this stuff, and it will influence what you are doing. This painting, the Boatman's Call, the whole sense of the river Styx, and actually the ferryman, Charon, who in Greek mythology, he basically would ferry people that have just died. They would have to be ferried across the river Styx from the land of the living to the land of the dead. I sort of like thought about that ferryman. I thought, well, maybe boatman is sort of like adapted for myself. The whole idea was obviously as we're watching day and day, the numbers going up, people dying and infections going up all around the world. I just thought, well, it's the sense, Charon's going to be busy up there or down there, should I say. And this sort of started. I was putting the snake symbol, and then the plane, sort of, the idea for me, sort of the idea of the Umpundula bird, the lightning bird, was like dangerous and sort of horror and all that. It's sort of one of my odes to this horrible time that we've had, and hopefully we get through it soon, and hopefully, for the people that have, gone across that river Styx into the land of the dead, it's terrible, and just hopefully this is all over, very soon. Right, this painting is called My Blue-Eyed Girl. Basically, I was visiting East London a while ago, and I went for a jog on the Hoon Beach. Really hot day, and the beach was packed full of people. When I started running up and down, sort of along the same stretch of beach, a massive storm came up. Thunder, lightning, and a bit of rain and all that. And within minutes, the entire beach cleared, and it was absolutely amazing. It was just myself and a couple of surfers out in the water, and I'm running up and down, and not a soul on the beach. At the one end, a kid had drawn a face in the sand, and as I went back and forth, each time I'd stop and look at this face, and it was just, whether the kid had meant it or not, but it was just the most perfect depiction of pure insanity. And I didn't have a phone with me or anything like that. Drove home and immediately made a sketch, which then eventually became the picture. And the whole idea was, I think I failed dismally. From what I can remember, the kids' work was just so brilliant. And this one, it works, but the whole point of what I enjoyed was the fact that it's almost impossible as an adult to copy what kids do. It's I find it a most amazing thing to watch children, especially young children's work, and to realize how basically it's in a weird way genius. So, it's impossible to copy what a child naturally does. And I think I'm going to hopefully spend the rest of my life trying to do that, get back to the point where I can actually draw like a 5-year-old. I mean, Picasso said something similar to that, and yeah, I think he was absolutely spot on.